So next, now we're going to start gathering the soft net pieces. You're going to set your machine to the longest stitch on your machine. If you're using this type, just push this part down till it gets to the very end. That's the longest stitch on this machine. So whichever machine you're using, pick the longest stitch. That's the one that is loose the most. Don't make the stitch tight. Then you sew on the net. Do not back stitch, just sew as you go. And because the stitch is very loose and the net is very light, it's already gathering even without anything. So just keep sewing. This is one of the 14 inches length that we cut out that time by 5 yards. We have 3 of them, so we're going to sew all 3 like so and gather all the 3 of them separate. So when you're making this stitch, make sure that you check your thread. It is not short, because if your thread cuts, you're going to start afresh. If your thread finishes under, you're starting afresh. So make sure you have your under thread full and your upper thread also, and then carefully make sure it does not cut, so you don't do one thing twice. So we're going to sew like so till we get to the other end. And also note that everything we are doing on this one layer here, we are going to be doing the same for the remaining 2 before we get on to the 4th one, which has the tiered effect on it. So once we sew, get to this other end. Also, I'm going to leave on the group the quantity of net you need for all the sizes and the ages of kids. The minimum quantity that you need for a ball gown, I will paste that in the group and you will see in more detail. So once we get to this end, do not backstitch as well. Just cut your thread like so, and then do the same for the remaining 3 layers. So after that, you will notice that you have 2 strands of thread on one end, on either of the ends actually. So pick only one and pull. Pick only one of the thread strands and then pull like so. That's how to make gathers. Just keep pulling. Don't pull too hard. Do not cut it. If it cuts, well, you're starting afresh. So pull carefully, gently, like so. Just hold on the thread and keep adjusting the fabric like I'm doing. So the aim now is to gather this thing to 26 inches, which is the waist that we are working with. So we're going to do that until it gets to that 26. Then we'll move on to the next step. You can also gather from the other end. So gather from one end a bit and then come to another end and gather again. Separate the strands into 2. Hold on only one and pull. Also, to avoid any accidents like cutting this thread while you're gathering it, some people sew twice. So you make 2 lines, and then in case one cuts, you will still have one as backup, but nobody has that time. So this is it now gathered. Next thing is to sew it to the lining piece. Remember, the lining will reduce the waist that initially. That's what you're going to be using. So we are placing the hard net on it. We are going to adjust. Also for the net, we are also going to leave 2 inches at the beginning and then 2 inches at the other end as well. So our gathers will start after that 2 inches. It's very important. You don't want the part where your zip will sit later very bulky. That's why this step is very important. Leave that space as it is, then start your gathers from there. Now, using pins, we are going to hold this net piece to the satin. Just adjust it so that it fits, and also your gathers are even. You don't want one part of the a soft net fuller than the other, so you keep adjusting the gathers so that they are the same. No part is fuller than the other part. So what I do is use pins, adjust and pin, adjust and pin. Keep adjusting. At this stage you can still pull on the thread. If you have a bit more than you can pull, adjust, pin, and then repeat until everything is aligning properly, and then it's time to sew. Also making sure that the net is not hanging way above the satin piece. So make sure they're equal at the top as you pin. Adjust, they're equal, and then pin. Please note that everything you're doing here, you're going to repeat the same exact thing for the remaining layers of the soft net. So just adjust, adjust, adjust. Also pull the seam allowances out. They shouldn't fold inwards. Everything should be smooth and clean. One more thing, this net now is sitting on the right side. So we're pinning this net on the right side of the satin fabric. This net is sitting on the right side of the satin fabric. This step is very important. You don't rush it at all. So once you're done pinning like so, you're going to go now and sew. So on the waistline, you just sew. Two pieces now will become one. While you're sewing, it's also important to keep adjusting so that you don't, nothing is folding into another. Like keep adjusting and sew carefully. Take your time. There's no rush here. Sew carefully, carefully. Once you're done sewing this part now, you will do the same thing for the other two. Make the loose stitches on the net, gather it, pin it on top of this one, and then come and sew. Go back, do the same for the third one, and sew again. As you're sewing, it's important to check that your seam allowances are matching. Your seam at the top for the satin and that of the net is matching, because you may be sewing only the net and not the satin piece. So it's important to check while you sew to be on the safe side. So this is the first layer done. We have two more to go, or rather three more to go. So for the second layer, this is it. You gather it like I said, place it over this one and then sew the same way we did the first one.